Have you ever noticed that when you want to be a trustworthy friend, despite not wanting anyone else to touch your stuff, you may end up looking like a very untrustworthy friend? Well, that's what Clyde found out in the episode I'm going to talk about today. So join me as I, SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. Cue the intro! Today's episode is Game Boys. In this episode, Lincoln wants to borrow Clyde's handheld game console, but Clyde is worried something bad might happen to it. This may come as a shock, but I actually don't think this episode is as good as many say it is. Just to be clear, I have no issue with the story they were going for and how Clyde was portrayed as a kid who's extremely paranoid and overprotective about the safety and well-being of his video game. I find that aspect very relatable because I'm also very particular when it comes to other people borrowing my stuff. I sometimes worry about others damaging or dirtying the things I lend them, so I don't condemn Clyde for being hesitant about Lincoln using his game console. In fairness, Lincoln lives with a very rowdy and spontaneous family, and the chances of something getting wrecked are very high. I honestly can't blame Clyde for wanting to follow his friend around the whole day to ensure his game's safety. Nonetheless, the bulk of the episode with Clyde freaking himself out and doing whatever he could to prevent his snap from getting messed up got rather annoying nearly halfway through. It's the kind of repetition that can only go so far before it stops being entertaining. Some of his attempts were kinda boring and perhaps a bit too out there to be considered funny. It especially didn't help when he was trapped under the dinner table and had to act like a dog and embrace Lynn's compliments to the chef. Those little moments were more unsettling than amusing. However, I'd be lying if I said I didn't find at least a few of his attempts to be funny and creative. I liked how he rolled Gio like a bowling ball to keep Lisa away from Lincoln, and how he drank all the kale juice in a matter of seconds to make sure Lenny didn't spill any. Of course, by the time the dinner scene rolls around and Clyde is eventually caught, that's when he has to admit he never wanted Lincoln to borrow his snap. Building upon what led to his confession, it reinforces something about Clyde's character that I believe really blurs the line on what it means to be a good friend. While Lincoln was praising Clyde for being very trusting and allowing him to borrow his game for the day, Clyde's underlying attitude and subsequent actions were the exact opposite. That's why I'm left feeling very conflicted about Clyde's behavior in this episode, because it makes him look both good and bad at the same time. The bad part is he didn't trust his own best friend to take care of something he greatly values. Even though there were a few moments where it looked as though something bad was going to happen because Lincoln was more distracted by the game than what was happening around him, the snap was still perfectly fine by the time he gave it back. Lincoln was more trusting of handling the snap than Clyde gave him credit for, even taking a proverbial bullet when some food was about to make contact with it, minus a tiny stain getting on the side. Still, the good part I will say about Clyde is he didn't want to look like a bad friend by saying Lincoln couldn't use his game console. It's something I reference in my review of Antiqued Off, where I explain how Clyde is willing to drive himself crazy if it means making his friend happy. There's definitely some integrity in doing that, so I can't be too harsh on him for wanting to put others before himself. By the end, Clink and McCloud are able to reconcile, and technically both of them got what they wanted, so they both come out as winners. Overall, even though this is something I file under the category of episodes that simply exist, this one is among the more interesting and relatable episodes. Clyde demonstrated what it meant to be both a good and bad friend, and learned to be more trusting of Lincoln. His many paranoid-driven attempts to protect his game ranged anywhere from very unsettling and not too amusing to very creative and quite clever. Some minor highlights would be the many Nintendo references, such as the episode title being Game Boys and featuring Lincoln and Clyde dressed as the Mario Brothers, not to mention how the snap is their version of the Switch. And finally, there's the quick gag of Clyde thinking he's going to turn into one of those people who only talks to cats, and then the camera pulls back to reveal a cat looking at him. So yeah, not really a bad episode, but not strong enough to be really good either. With that said, I give Game Boys a 7.8 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Game Boys. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.